Before we get started, if you have not yet signed in, can you so kindly just sign in at the table right here up front? Thank you so much.
Part of this report. So you guys hold the line.
This one's in first term.
Great. Thank you.
They are. Is it possible to take two of these where I'm standing in your back? Can I take
Oh,
two?
yes, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry. There should be some more chairs there.
It's pretty full.
Let's go ahead and move the last one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We are running a risk that we lose people over room capacity. That was scary.
Yeah, Stacy told me to do a head count once we begin. Thank you. Do you need help, Stacy? Anyone? Okay, let's get started. Welcome everybody tonight. Welcome to tonight's CDC meeting for February 26, 2024. Our regular chairman is unavailable to make it tonight. So our first order of business is to appoint a chairman pro tem. Mr. Brenty has graciously volunteered to be our chairman pro tem tonight. So first order of business is we just need a motion to appoint Mr. Brenty as chairman pro tem. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. We'll do a roll call, Marilyn, please.
Ms. Rudnicki?
Here.
Mr. Parenti?
Just one moment. For right now, we're just making the motion.
Oh, yes.
to appoint
I always
Mr.
get that
Parenti
confused. I'm
as
sorry.
chairman pro tem. So it's a yes or a no.
It's a yes.
Okay.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Zadko?
Yes.
Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Babowis is not here, or is Mr. Ochoa, Chairman Ochoa?
Okay, the motion passes. Mr. Parenti is our chairman pro tem. At this point, I'll cede the floor to you, Mr. Parenti.
Okay. Okay, I'm right here. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting of Wooddale Community Development Commission. My name is Jim Parenti. I am the chairman for the Wooddale Community Development Commission. Will the secretary please call a roll call?
Ms. Rudnicki?
Here.
Mr. Parenti,
Here.
Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Ms. Zadko,
Here.
and Mr. Woods.
Here. The CDC has a quorum to present. We need a motion to approve the minutes for January 15, 2024.
I make the motion to approve the minutes, January 15th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Okay, the motion carries. Minutes are approved. We need a motion to approve the meeting from January 22nd, 2024.
Make the motion to approve the minutes, January 22nd, 2024.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we need a motion on the second. Motion carry, sorry.
Okay. And Chairman Parenti, typically Chairman Ochoa requests that I be the meeting and hearing facilitator. Do you request that I serve as the hearing facilitator tonight?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, let's move on to our hearings. For our public hearings, all testimony will be given under oath. At the hearing, there'll be an opportunity for the public to offer testimony and to comment. Following the public hearing, the CDC's deliberations will be open to the public in the sense that all are invited to listen and to watch. The public, however, may not speak during the CDC's deliberations. We ask that the applicants here tonight give specific evidence to demonstrate that their proposals meet the standards of approval for their request. The burden is on the applicant to prove the case. Additionally, city staff will provide a general description of the proposals, followed by their analysis. With respect to others who wish to speak, you may give an opinion or present specific evidence as to why you believe the applicant meets or fails to meet the standards for the request. Finally, we will strictly adhere to the schedule prepared for tonight's meeting. However, those wishing to submit evidence and testimony will be afforded sufficient time within which to do so. Whether you're a member of the public wishing to make a statement for the record or a witness testifying on behalf of an applicant, you'll be placed under oath and then begin by stating your name and address. You'll be subject to questions by the CDC and potential cross-examination by the applicant. To allow as many people to be heard as possible, we do request that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes. If additional time is needed, the hearing will be continued until the next available hearing date. Okay, so we have 2 hearings tonight. The first hearing involves case number CDC 2023-003. That case was continued to tonight from the last hearing date for the applicant and the staff to provide the CDC with some answers to certain questions that came up at the hearing. If you recall, the CDC closed the public hearing. So just as a matter of procedure, we first need a motion to reopen the public hearing in case number CDC 2023-003. Can I have a motion to reopen the public hearing in case number CDC 2023-003? Anyone can say so moved.
Motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, Marilyn, roll call, please.
Ms. Rudnicki,
Yes.
Mr. Parenti,
Here.
Mr.
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Zadko,
Yes.
and Mr. Woods.
Yes.
Okay, so the public hearing for CDC 2023-003 is reopened. Our second case tonight is CDC 2023-008. This is another phase of a development in the area adjacent to the phase at issue in the first case. Because there may be questions either from the CDC or members of the public that apply to both phases 1 and 2, I'm recommending that the public hearing for both cases be consolidated. Can I have a motion to consolidate the public hearing for case number CDC 2023-003 and CDC 2023-008? Anyone can say so moved.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Marilyn, can you please call the roll on that?
Ms. Rudnicki?
Yes.
Mr. Parenti?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Sadko?
Yes.
And Mr. Woods?
No. Okay, the motion carries. Okay, just, we have a number of people here tonight, and we're proceeding on hearing on both cases tonight. So just want to kind of let everybody know how we're going to be proceeding. We're going to start with the applicant in case number CDC 2023-003. The applicant will make its presentation. Again, as you recall, the CDC and some of the members of the public did have some questions for the applicant, so the applicant will be addressing some of those. We'll then proceed to staff in case number 003. Then we're going to move on to case number CDC 2023-008. Likewise, the applicant will make their presentation. Then we will proceed to staff. Finally, after both cases have been discussed by the applicants and staff, we're going to proceed to public comment. So public comment can be on both cases, the first case or the second case. And that's generally how we will be proceeding tonight. There are a number of folks here tonight. We're going to try to give everybody the opportunity to speak tonight who would like to speak. What we're going to do, because we have so many folks, I would like everybody to stand who is intending on providing a comment or testimony, and we're going to swear everybody in at the same time, and that would be including staff. So if you could just stand and raise your right hand, and then Marilyn, if you could administer the oath.
Do each of you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, great. Everybody is sworn in. Okay, let's start with tonight's first matter. Again, this is the continued case from last hearing, the last hearing date at CDC 2023-003. Just as a reminder, this case involves an application filed by C1 Chicago 1 LLC for a special use for a planned unit development, combined concept for the entire site, and final development for phase 1 with certain deviations, a special use for major utilities and public service facilities, site plan review, and final plat of subdivision, re-subdivision, to enable construction of 2 data center buildings and a ComEd substation on property generally located to the west of Illinois Route 83, Bussey Road, between Bryn Mawr Avenue on the north and Washington Street on the south. And we did cover this at the last meeting, but staff, can you just please remind us, was there proper notice published in the paper as to this case?
Yes, there was. The notice was published before the prior public hearing, and the notice specifically says that the meeting can be continued to the following meeting, which was the case here.
Okay, great. And is the applicant here tonight?
Yes, Mayor.
Great. Do you wish to make a presentation? Okay, if you could just approach the podium, please.
Thanks.
So may I have your name, please?
Brad Hout. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time tonight to hear the continuation of our case. We spent the last few weeks, time between the meetings, preparing our responses in addition to meeting with some of the community members to better hear some of the concerns that were raised. Tonight I'll provide background on a lot of the questions that were provided by the board, in addition to some community members, and hopefully provide a better guidance on the potential impact of our project and what we plan to do with the site. With that being said, I've organized our presentation into specific subject matter components. There were a number of people who spoke at the previous meeting, and a lot of the comments and questions kind of followed similar threads. And so in my slides, I'll kind of go topic by topic and try to answer or address as much as I can with the time that I have tonight. So I'll start first off with noise considerations. So during the last meeting, I think it was pretty clear there's some ambiguity about what the standards were that we would have to comply with as part of our development. And so I wanted to clarify that because it is tied to an IEPA standard, and being adjacent to residential, there is a much more stricter noise standard for our project than we would see in other places where there wasn't residential nearby. And so our standards that we have to meet are 55 dBA during the daytime hours and 44 at night. So you contrast this against the ambient noise survey readings that we conducted during our due diligence. And we do this with all of our projects to understand that what are the current noise sources that exist today, so we can understand what our impact is going to be on the environment. And so we did conduct those back in 2023, and without any activity out there, without any project, no construction, just as it is today, the average noise levels for the site range between 52 to 68 dBA during the daytime hours and 51 to 68 dBA at night. So on the nighttime side, it's very clear that our standards that we're going to be held to are already below what the existing noise levels are today. As for daytime hours, we're right on the low end of that range, but nonetheless, even after our building is constructed, this area will continue to be dominated by the noise sources that exist today. And those are, I think, most people could agree, the overhead air traffic, the traffic from Route 83, and then the noise just from being in a general urban, suburban environment with logistics, manufacturing, office uses nearby. So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity between what our standards are and what currently exists from a noise perspective. The second topic I want to talk about is lighting, understanding that there's a concern about how much light our facility is going to emit to neighboring properties, particularly those residential properties that may be nearby. And so I just wanted to highlight a few things to help ease some concern there. Our building will be LEED certified, and so there are stronger or stricter requirements tied to that LEED certification that relate to light pollution that we have to adhere to. All of the lighting that we use on our campus will be downlit LED lighting. There's just an example of it there. Lighting does run dusk to dawn, and when we're up against a residential boundary, there will be trees to provide additional screening and deflection from any light that we might be introducing to the area. We're not like a retail building or an office building that's really interested in visibility. We're not going to create any more light than we need to. That picture up there that you see, that's a picture from a site that we have adjacent to a highway in Northern Virginia. And all the lighting there is this kind of downlit focused lighting, and it's there to serve a specific purpose. There's no more lighting on the sides of the building than there needs to be, and every light fixture is purposeful in what it's accomplishing. These aren't large ballasts like you might see even out in this parking lot that are sending light in every single direction. They're very focused, and they're meant to illuminate a specific portion of the site. The third topic I wanted to highlight is related to height. Heard a lot of concern about the 75-foot height limit that was included in our deviation request. And there was a question about FAA approval and whether we had received FAA approval for that 75. The answer to that was no. We did receive an FAA approval, but it is up to 70. So we have reduced our variance request or deviation request to the 70. There's one important thing I wanted to note with regard to the building facade and the height associated with it. And so this snapshot that you see here illustrates it, is that the primary face of our building that is on the street, that's the outermost part of our facade, is 55 feet tall at the parapet. The height increase from 55 to 70 is intended to serve a couple things. One are the stair towers that'll go up to the roof, and two are the cooling equipment that's on the roof and the screening that hides all that equipment. And so that's what you see in this upper section here, is that additional height. It's not depicted very well here, but those cooling apparatus and that screening wall is set back from the parapet. So if you're standing in front of the building or you're close to the building, you're looking up, you're experiencing a 55-foot building. In reality, if you were to step way back and see the building from a larger perspective, you would see that additional height increase. But I just want to clarify kind of what the first facade you're going to experience is and how high it is, which is that 55 feet. Obviously, there was concerns brought forth regarding residential adjacent to industrial. And undoubtedly, there's conditions where this will be new for some properties that may remain, and there will be a barrier between industrial and residential. But the idea that this is anything new or novel or unheard of would be inaccurate. In Chicago, this condition of shared property lines between industrial and residential uses is extremely prominent, along with elsewhere in the United States. But even more specifically, here in this neighborhood, it is particularly prominent. And so you can see, just looking at the three sides of the site, there's the backyards of the properties on the west currently share a boundary with industrial uses. There's manufacturing uses, logistics, and data centers on that side of the site. Same with the north, although those houses are already gone, but even additionally with the properties on the east. The roads that abut Route 83 do not have any screening or trees or anything to block the view going straight across 83 to all of the industrial and warehouse uses that exist on the other side. So the presence of our building, granted, would be new in some locations, for the backyard, for example, of one of these properties, or the front yard. It wouldn't change the fact that on the other three sides, or other two sides, that these industrial views exist. They're unchanged. They're not going anywhere. It's the existing condition. Along with that, the noise and the light and other effects that the industrial uses are having on the neighborhood aren't going anywhere as well. And to a large degree, our project is held to a much higher standard than all of these buildings that are built in the 70s, 80s, or 90s are held to. So I just want to make that point, that it's not a new or unique thing that we're creating here. It's very much in line, and there's plenty of codes and regulations to govern how industrial interplays or interacts with residential. And we highlighted it with the noise limits. Those are aggressive noise limits. And the same thing with setbacks. I think you'll see on the subsequent presentation that there are buildings shown very close to property lines on our conceptual plan. Those buildings, when they are built, whenever they're built, down the road as part of a development cycle, will come in for a site plan review, similar to this. Open for public comment, and we'll have the same kind of considerations given to it that you're giving to phase one of our project. So I just want to mention that because I know it'll continue to be a concern that comes up. Electromagnetic fields, this was something that was brought up during the last meeting, and I think it's worth starting with the baseline definition and then two distinctions that are very important. So electric and magnetic fields together, referred to as EMFs, are invisible areas of energy, also called radiation, that are produced by electricity, which is the movement of electrons or current through a wire. That's just a definition. There's two categories that are very important, as I mentioned. The differentiation between high-frequency EMFs and low to mid-frequency EMFs. The chart on the right illustrates this. All of this information is copy and pasted from the federal government's National Cancer Institute. The differentiation between the two categories in the chart are important. On the low frequency side, you have things like computers, power lines, TV broadcasts, radio, Wi-Fi, remote controls, mobile phones, microwaves. These are devices that are in this room, that are in our houses, in our office buildings, won't be in our data center. On the right-hand side are things like diagnostic radiation. These are cancer treatments. Obviously with the ability to change DNA in cells. The main takeaway here that I just want to highlight is just in that bold statement at the bottom there. It's that unlike high energy ionizing radiation, that therapeutic radiation that I mentioned, EMFs in the non-ionizing part of the electromagnetic spectrum cannot damage DNAs or cells directly. There were a number of specific questions related to emergency generators that a few of the board members had presented. Admittedly, I didn't have all the specific dimensions and kind of, numbers nailed down, so I put it together here just to present. 29 generators in the first building, 12 feet tall, 37 feet long. They have 6,800-gallon diesel fuel tanks. Those will run for about 40 hours before they have to be refueled. They get refilled by tanker trucks. The operators are trained in how to manage spills that happen in the course of refilling the tanks. These are the same kind of tanker trucks that you'd see filling the Thornton's gas station across the street. The difference being our tanks are belly units above ground and the gas station's below ground. The tanks have primary and secondary containment built in, so the primary tank is the tank itself. If that were to fail, the fuel will just go to the secondary containment unit. If it made its way outside of that, there's leak detection systems that notify our operations staff when hydrocarbons are present. So the second that the fuel comes outside of the unit as a whole, there's a cable there to detect a hydrocarbon and send an alert to our operations staff who can in real time respond to the leak and address it as needed. To a lesser extent, there's also there's tank capacity tracking, so it just tells us when the tank is low. It would also notify us if a tank is suddenly losing volume but not running for some reason. So that's just the general kind of specific questions that I wanted to address related to the generators. Water wells, I think those concerns raised about our effect on groundwater. And related to the wells that existed there previously for the residential units, as part of all of our work, we are sealing the formerly used wells and performing all of that work in accordance with the Illinois Water Well Construction Code, which governs this work, and the work's performed by licensed water well drillers. I think when you hear about abandoned wells or leftover wells, the concern is that you have an unfinished condition, there's an open hole, and somebody can just dump whatever into the hole and contaminate the groundwater. Obviously, that's not our intent. We want everything sealed properly so that there aren't any adverse or unintended effects on the groundwater. So I've talked a lot about kind of the questions and things that were raised at the last meeting. I think the one thing we didn't really talk about at all or present very much are the benefits, the potential good that can come from this project and the effect it can have on the community. So I just wanted to spend my last slide just talking about that, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think obviously our site plan is for phase one. There will be a site or additional details shared by the next presenter. But overall, this is a 5 to 10 year development cycle, could be longer. It's a long time to be building. If you think about that kind of duration for a construction project, there's hundreds and hundreds of construction jobs that are created from this work. And those are construction jobs that are sustained over that entire period. And those people coming to the site to work are relying on the local economy for their daily and local, their daily retail needs and also the supply chain needs to the supporting businesses that support our construction industry. We have a permanent workforce that's coming here with salaries above the median income level for DuPage County. These are high quality jobs and new jobs to the area. You have new service positions that provide a range of support functions that our buildings need to operate. These are security positions, they're cleaning positions, they're maintenance positions. Once we create the building, these positions are needed for the entire life cycle of the project. These jobs don't go away, they're not temporary, they're there. And these are people living and working in this region, in this area, that are benefiting from these additional opportunities. Once we're able to power up our building, the utility tax revenue that we'll create, obviously with the first building and then subsequent buildings, is a significant source of revenue for the municipalities that we located. The types of programs that the municipalities have chosen to use these dollars towards include things like teacher salary increases, school facility construction, public works projects, first responder and law enforcement hiring, and other initiatives that these other communities have found important. I mentioned it previously, our building is going to be LEED certified. We use a highly efficient closed-loop air-cooled chilling system. We use this in lieu of evaporative cooling. A lot of other data centers you may read about use a lot of water in their cooling processes. We don't, and that really reduces any strain that we might create on the community's water resources. I know everything I've said tonight, everybody's not going to agree with, but and I've tried over the past few weeks in conversations with people to address concerns. We will continue to do that. As I mentioned, it's a 5 to 10 year project. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be things that people want to talk about. I think we have a very open and honest and transparent approach to how we approach things, and we welcome those continued conversations and opportunities to problem solve. And finally, just want to close in saying that we're excited to be in Wooddale. This is a big project for our company, and we really look forward to establishing further and really continuing that this partnership with the city and with the community. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member of the CDC have any questions for the applicant based on their follow-up answers?
All right, you said you took sound level ratings in the city. When did you do it? Where did you do it? Because we do have planes going overhead, and if you sat and took a measurement then, obviously it's going to be high.
Yeah, they're May 2023 is when they were done. There's 3 of them on phase 1. This was just phase 1, not the area that the other applicant's going to present on. So the one towards the corner of Bryn Mawr and 83, one towards, and then one at each east or west corner of the site. So we only had 1 by 83. The other 2 were out set back further. I think we know the 1 by 83 is going to have the loudest readings. You're right next to the road, and that was the case. The other 2 are kind of a little bit lower, but that's where the readings were taken.
Yeah, but depending on when you took them, they might not have been lower either if there's airplanes coming over. That's why I'm wondering when you took them and where.
They're in
Do
those.
they have a list of that anywhere that we can see?
Yeah, I could probably get you the locations, and I found out the duration. It's not like we don't, they don't sit there and like hold the meter up and just take the reading. It's out there for multiple days, even weeks, just constantly reading.
Set up in a car, I understand.
Yeah.
The airport does the same.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is if you happen to be on a day where you're going through that runway and you're near that sound level is going to be high.
I see what you're saying.
And
So you're
it's not
saying,
something we want, trust me. We
Yeah.
are not happy with it.
I see what you're saying. You're saying depending on if they're taking off or landing from a certain
Correct.
direction, the readings could be different?
That's why I would like to see where the readings were taken at.
Fair enough. Yeah, we can follow up with that information. It might even be part of our permitting requirements too, as part of confirming the noise standards for the city. But I think either way, it doesn't change what we have to comply with, which is those IEPA standards, which are still pretty low.
I know, but you're making it sound like it's going to be a lot quieter than what we have, and we're not happy with what we have
No,
on the
yeah,
airplane.
Gotcha.
So we don't want to have any more noise, to be
Right.
honest with you, so. But I do have another question, Kate, do you have something? The storage tanks for the fuel, why aren't you taking them underground?
Underground?
Yeah.
I think just in terms of, I think you introduced a lot of risk by putting them underground.
Are they inside or outside?
The tanks themselves?
Yeah.
They're outside. They're,
So a truck hitting one outside isn't more of a chance than something that's buried in the ground?
there's, I don't know, do I have a site plan here? There is a roadway, so you're not, let's see here. All right, so there's generators here. So your fuel tanker truck's gonna stay on the road. They're not gonna like pull in between the generators, obviously, and they're gonna pull up next to the generator and refill it, just from that road. I mean, I can find out if there's bollards and what else protects them, but I think, this is a pretty typical configuration. that
So
we
you don't
see.
have a regular storage tank? You're filling these individually?
Each generator has its own storage tank that gets filled individually.
So that truck's coming in on a daily basis?
Not necessarily, no.
Pretty much.
They
You're
don't.
telling me they're running all the time. You got, how many of them? 37?
They only run in 30 minutes a month for maintenance purposes. Otherwise, they almost never run. For them to run, it would have to be a total loss of power. And
So they're strictly backup.
correct. Correct.
One more. So, yeah. The, you said they're air-cooled, not water-cooled. All your servers or whatever it is. So I take it you're gonna have quite a big AC up on that roof.
It's a chill, yeah. I mean, they're,
Chiller?
yeah,
Something that's making noise.
Yeah.
Pretty much 24/7.
yeah. Well, it's an air-cooled, yeah. It's an air conditioning unit. It's going to make some noise.
Yep.
The difference is you can buy, much like, you could buy the most efficient air conditioner like a Sear 19 or something, or you could buy a Sear 11. They're going to have different performance specs. And this, with what we have to comply with from a regulation perspective, there's additional money you're spending on a more efficient unit that's quieter, that's going to meet the standards. I think it doesn't make sense for us, and I know there's been instances referenced of other campuses and legacy issues with some things from the last decade, but it doesn't make sense for me to create a condition that's going to create complaints constantly for us, right? Like, we want to be within the regulations, we want to comply, we want to do the right thing, and we'll make sure that the equipment is spec'd appropriately for the noise standards that are here.
And I understand that, but from our point of view, we've got to make sure for the people of the city that we're doing the best job we can do for them.
Absolutely.
Well, have they given any thought to going with ground, like heat pump units, rather than having some air-cooled thing up on a roof?
I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't want to speculate, but I presume
Their cost is more, but over longevity, it's cheaper to run.
I feel like our facilities, our technology is kind of akin to like some of the airlines. There has to be a level of proven technology, reliability, redundancy, and then replacement. And so we're picking units that are extremely reliable, maintainable, will last a long time. That just to be said, like I'm sure there are other technologies exist. I just don't know how proven or accepted they are by the other data center companies throughout the world, and their tenants as well. The tenants require a certain level of redundancy to be shown within the building systems.
Do any other members of the CDC have questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. You can take a seat for now. Now we'll move on to the staff. Staff, do you have any additional information you want to provide for the CDC?
Thank you. Yes, I actually wanted to run real quick through our prior presentations, which I know a lot of it is information we've already seen, but I really wanted to emphasize sort of the purpose of the public hearing. So in front of us, we have a petition, which is a continuation from last month, and this is a petition for a special use for a planned unit development. We're actually doing a final development plan for building 1, and then concept plan for the rest of the site, which will include building number 2, which in effect, the applicant will have to come back in front of CDC for the similar zoning entitlement process for that building number 2. We also have a special use for major utilities and public service facilities that will be for that Comet substation. There's also a final subdivision plat and a site plan review, which was done as part of a staff review. So the general location of the site we're all very familiar with. This is the subject property. In terms of zoning, it is already zoned I-1. This was part of the annexation and rezoning and preliminary set of approvals that took place earlier in 2022. The comprehensive plan actually notes this area as area that was indicated to be used for industrial business park uses, and there was it was identified as a site that was likely to experience development pressure. So all of these things I know we already talked about last time. These are the sort of the background. So this subject property has gone through some preliminary approvals and rezoning back in January of 2022. The survey of properties, these were residential properties that were acquired and they were demolished. The final plat of subdivision does call for 3 lots to be created. There's one major one that will house the data center buildings. There's lot number 3 for the Comet substation, and lot number 2, which is for the existing cell tower that's owned by the Wooddale Park District. The proposed master site plan, there are no changes proposed from what we've seen last time. We've got the 2 buildings, substation, and the detention that will serve mainly the substation area. The phasing, as I mentioned, it will be phased over 2 phases. So building 1 will come in first with the Comet substation, and then phase 2 will be building number 2. This is a rendering that we've seen. This is the view facing south. And we also have a view kind of facing a little bit further out from, also from the south, but closer to Route 83. In terms of engineering, there aren't really any changes. Our city engineers have reviewed the proposed plans, and they're comfortable with the level of submittal that was needed for PUD. Obviously, final engineering approval will come at the time of permitting, which is always a requirement. I also wanted to emphasize that the developer has been working with the Wooddale Fire District, mainly just to make sure that access will be provided to the remaining residential properties that will remain in the subdivision. And once again, this is just an overview of all of the requests that are in front of CDC tonight that I mentioned earlier. And I did want to point out the deviations. Once again, no changes from last time. The only thing of note is the deviation for the building height has been reduced from 75 to 70 feet. In terms of compliance with the comprehensive plan, I mentioned that it is designated as industrial and a future land use vet, so it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. It also supports multiple goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The public hearing, obviously a lot of questions came up during the last meeting. We had some questions from the public and from the committee. So in your packets, you should have seen there was an exhibit that was put together listing all of the questions and specific answers that were either provided by city staff or the applicant, answering all the questions, and the applicant covered a lot of the major ones earlier this evening. So to sum up, staff recommends that CDC recommend approval of the petition, as we find that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the UDO, and listed on screen are the conditions that we typically put on the approval, mainly just to ensure that the actual approved project gets built, so that there's a compliance with the documents that were submitted. There's the condition that the final engineering will need to be acquired. We also have the condition that the special use shall relate to the site itself as opposed to just the applicant. We also put a note, a special number 4, the fact that we know that there will be screening provided for any rooftop units, but in case there are any changes to the site plan and so on, we need to ensure that the screening will be provided, and in fact those units will be screened. And the last one is also almost a standard note. We put in the fact that the landscaping that is being proposed is something that will have to be maintained as the project moves forward. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member of the CDC have any additional questions for staff?
Coach, on the screening on the roof. The screening on the roof. It's made of what? Do we know?
I actually don't know. I believe it was a metal panel, but I'm not quite sure.
All right. I don't know if we can ask them, is there another way we can go with that? Because the metal panel is only going to echo. Whereas if you had some sort of panel that could absorb some of that noise would certainly be nice. And I'm sure they make them. So if we can find out, or if we can ask them.
Our architects here.
We are going to be using acoustic.
Okay, ma'am, if you're going to testify, can I ask that you please approach the podium?
Try not to take any light up.
It's too early yet.
Your name, please.
Marcella DeLong.
Thank you.
So just to answer your question very briefly, we are intending to use acoustical screening on this project.
Throughout the whole part of it, or just
The
parts?
entire perimeter of the chiller plant on the roof.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any additional questions for staff or the CDC members? Okay, so just a reminder, members of the public, you're going to have the opportunity to ask this applicant questions as well as the applicant in the next case, okay? So take note of your questions. We're going to give you that full opportunity. First, we're going to move on to the applicant in the second case. All right, so this is case number CDC 2023-008. This matter involves an application that's been filed by C1 Chicago 2 LLC for a map amendment, rezoning, upon annexation. This is by an annexation agreement and a preliminary subdivision plat, including vacation of streets to enable redevelopment of the area generally located along Illinois Route 83, Bussey Road, between Washington Street to the north and Foster Avenue to the south. This is also known as the Bryn Mawr Phase Project. Is the applicant for this particular project here tonight? Do you wish to make some statements?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Can you just approach the podium?
Your name, please.
Marshall Huberty. Thank you, Coach.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Huberty.
All right, thank you. Good evening, council members and city staff. My name, again, is Marshall Huberty. I work for Transwestern Development Company as a petitioner on behalf of CyrusOne for this portion of the hearing. Thank you for time and consideration of the forthcoming requests. So this area on the screen, outlined in blue, is called Bryn Mawr Phase 3, represents Phase 2 of the overall CyrusOne concept plan. This area is immediately south of the project just discussed at Bryn Mawr Route 83, called Bryn Mawr Phase 2. It represents Phase 1 of the overall CyrusOne plan. So I would take some time here to introduce TDC. TDC is a diversified national real estate developer with expertise in all commercial property types. We have a national logistics platform based in Houston with offices operating in all major industrial institutional markets. My team here this evening and I sit in the Chicago office and focus primarily on modern warehousing, distribution, and manufacturing developments. So also on screen are some of our partners from previous developments, as well as 3 representative projects from here in the Wooddale community. On the bottom left of the screen is the first project from May of 2020, our redevelopment on Central Avenue of 157,000 square feet. It's a speculative project. The second in the center was a build-to-suit for Nippon Express in September of 2021. On the bottom right hand of the screen was our third and more recent project just discussed and reviewed from August of 2022. Currently under review and presented early upon. So at the end of November of 2023, CyrusOne closed on the 62 residential parcels outlined on screen in yellow. The property is located near the city's primary industrial business park, south of Illinois 390, and bordered by industrial buildings on the north, east, and west. To the south are residential lots across Foster Avenue. So the property is currently improved with the single-family residential homes, which were primarily constructed before 1980 with some exceptions. The lots are currently in unincorporated DuPage County, and water and sewer are provided individually by private well and septic systems. The property comprises of approximately 38 acres in total, inclusive of the proposed vacated portions of Washington Street, Center Street, and Hawthorne Avenue. So the project will greatly enhance the use of the site and add value to the local economy, as discussed before, through new tax revenues, as well as permanent and temporary job opportunities. The proposed request this evening are for a zoning change from residential to industrial and for the annexation of all unincorporated properties in yellow into the city of Wooddale. So this slide was included to highlight the goals and objectives of the 2018 Wooddale Comprehensive Plan. Again, the plan provides a future land use map that is shown in the center of the slide. And the red box outlines location that is of this project. And as you can see, the purple striped area, the future land use map is designated industrial/business park, and our proposed project is consistent with and meets the goals and directions of the future land use plan. So the proposed development would consist of 3 data center facilities. The westernmost building, a proposed 208,000 square foot floor. The eastern building proposed 105,000 square feet floor, and the southern building another proposed 208,000 square feet. They'll be constructed simultaneously, and all 3 buildings will be designed to and consistent with the recent developments in the city, making use of precast panel walls, steel, glass, glazing, and extensive landscaping throughout. This plan is in order to create a high image frontage along Route 83. And I will emphasize that this plan is conceptual, and the actual building drawings will have elements like setbacks, fencing, landscaping, tree plantings factored in to soften the property boundaries. The use will have a negligible amount of associated truck traffic and an insignificant increase to passenger traffic, given the nature of the use. And those accesses will be via Spruce Avenue from the south and the internal circulation from the north, connected to phase 1 of this project on Route 83 in Bryn Mawr. And then, as you saw on the concept plan, we felt it important to include this slide to highlight the plan for the remaining residents that's been carefully considered. The plan is to create a right-in, right-out off of Route 83 to provide a private access for residents once construction is complete, including a truck turnaround built to fire code for emergency services. Once incorporated into Wooddale and during construction, the use of the existing roads will be available to those residents on Washington via an access agreement. So we're familiar with these. Just to illustrate the design and material concepts included here is representative elevations of the building currently in review for phase 1, as viewed from the west and south. And while the final plan for phase 2 will be presented at a later date for approval, the same panel walls, glass, steel, and glazing design elements and features utilized in phase 1 will be present in the 3 buildings proposed here. Here are the building elevations from the east and north, again from phase 1, but representative what will ultimately be proposed for development here. So the project represents a significant investment into Wooddale, the current amount being approximately $250 million. This investment will enhance the site in a manner consistent with the future land use plan and spur further economic development through a value-add opportunity with limited impact on public services. So during development of the Nippon built-to-suit, we had 0 life safety violations, and resident complaints were addressed within 24 to 48 hours. Our goal was to make the conditions as accommodating as possible for residents, and Cyrus One intends to operate the same way in this development. To date, we have already taken steps to address commission commentary and community input. We have taken them into consideration for this concept plan. In closing, we want to reiterate our excitement and commitment to the project and ask for your support in the annexation and rezoning of the assembled parcels. I'll open up for questions from commissioners now, and again, thank you for your time and consideration. We look forward to working with the city on this project.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any members of the CDC have questions for this applicant?
Are your trucks going to be coming out on Foster Avenue? Wow. Building.
For during construction or during the operation?
During operation or construction, either or.
Foster Avenue isn't truck, isn't a
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not allowed, so it's
But when
off
you
of
built the
Bryn
Napon
Mawr.
building, they did come through there. Can we make sure that
We
they
can
put up
provide,
some-
we can provide postings and have directions, absolutely, for
Well,
all
directions aren't
drivers.
gonna help, because your truck drivers are gonna come off Route 83, and if something else is backed up, they're gonna take any side street they can to get down to Central, and then they'll jog Central down. That's exactly what they did. So we need to make it so they cannot come into the residential. area.
Agreed, yeah, we'll make every effort to make that a reality.
Are there any other questions from the CDC members for this applicant? Okay, thank you very much for now, and we will move on to staff. Staff, do you have any presentation or comments you'd like to make as to this application?
Yes, please. I just need 1 second to load it up. Thank you so much. So just kind of with a similar process as we did for the prior petition, I wanted to sort of emphasize what are the requests that are in front of CDC tonight. So we actually have two. We have a map amendment, which essentially is rezoning. This is all based on the fact that the petition for annexation will be going to City Council next month. So obviously that's going to be the first approval, but annexations do not come to CDC, they go directly to City Council. And once, assuming that City Council approves the annexation, then the rezoning component comes in. But because rezoning is something that falls under CDC, we're presenting this petition sort of conditionally on the fact that City Council will consider annexation next month. So we have a rezoning from I-1, which typically what happens is when you have a property that gets annexed into the city, it's automatically zoned R1, which is our most restrictive residential zoning district. So the petitioners here are requesting to have that rezoning changed from R1 to I1, which is more in line with the development that they're looking for. So that's rezoning is the first request. And the second one is they're also requesting preliminary subdivision plat and vacation of streets. In this case, it would be essentially consolidation of the residential lots into larger lots. I believe there's a total of 3 created. So those are the 2 requests. I wanted to kind of take a, show everyone just a general location because we do have a lot of phases, a lot of developments coming in. So essentially, Bryn Mawr Phase 2 is the first petition that we heard today. This would be the first phase of development for CyrusOne for the 2 data centers. This specific petition, CDC 2023-008, is for Bryn Mawr Phase 3. That's essentially how we're calling the 2 separate projects. And this, based on the concept plan that's proposed, would house 3 additional data center buildings, also for CyrusOne development. So these would be under common ownership. The general location, we talked about, this is 63 properties, and we have Washington, Pine Center, and Hawthorne, and part of Spruce. Those are the residential streets. Zoning map, currently the property is unincorporated DuPage County, and I talked about the rezoning. So upon annexation would be R1, and the request is to have it rezoned to I1, which is in line with the surrounding Wooddale district. The comprehensive plan, similarly to the property to the north, this was noted as an area with, as a site likely to experience development pressure, and the intent was for it to become industrial business park. This is a portion of that preliminary plat of subdivision. Is actually shown on 2 slides. There will be a total of 3 parcels essentially that will be created from those 63, and those would be lot 1, which is almost a little bit of an island, but this one will be adjacent to the subject property owned by the same property owner to the north, and then we've got lot 1, which is the majority of the area right here, and there is lot 3, which is also just a single parcel that will essentially be adjacent to the property to the north. And I'm just going to zoom in. This is just the other view of all the individual lots that will be consolidated and the streets that will be vacated. This is the concept site plan that the applicant just showed us. I do want to emphasize that this was a requirement for the applicant to provide a concept site plan that could be attached to the annexation agreement. So I do want to emphasize that the purpose of the meeting tonight is not necessarily to discuss the concept site plan, because the developer will be required to come back in front of CDC for a most likely, which will be a special use for planned unit development, whether it's preliminary or final or maybe combined concept. But as the city is moving forward with the annexation, we wanted to have some sort of a conceptual document referenced that we know how the area is intended to be developed, and that will become part of the annexation. It will be one of the exhibits that's listed in there. So in terms of the request, as I mentioned, we do have rezoning, which is the first request, and then we've got the preliminary plat of subdivision, which is the second request. In terms of public comment to date, we did receive an inquiry from one property owner on Foster. There were a number of questions that were raised that we were able to respond to directly. And other than that, we have not received any specific inquiries about this petition. Therefore, Community Development staff recommends that CDC recommend approval of the two zoning petitions, as we find that they're consistent with the UDO comprehensive plan. I do want to emphasize that there is no requirement to actually adopt findings of fact for rezonings, but we always tend to look at compliance with the comprehensive plan and with the UDO, and that is all noted in the staff memo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member of the CDC have a follow-up question for staff? Go ahead.
You want us to vote on this before you annex in?
That is how we've done all of the petitions for rezoning with annexation, correct? So the vote is to recommend to City Council either approval or recommend denial, and that will come in.
Zoning.
Correct, for rezoning of property upon annexation. So that's why the title says it's rezoning upon annexation.
And I'll just say, from a procedural point, that's typically how all municipalities do it. All right, any other questions for staff? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to commence with the public statement comment portion of the proceedings tonight. You can comment on the first application, you can comment on the second application, you can comment on both applications. So what we're going to do is we're going to give everybody the opportunity to comment, ask questions. I'd ask the applicants if, to the extent you want to address any of the questions, just take note of them, and at the end of everybody's questions and comments, you'll have the opportunity to make any sort of responses that you deem necessary. Okay, so at this point, just a show of hands, is there anybody who would like to make a comment or a statement? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I got to be very resident, so I can read out the vote.
Couple reminders here. First, we're going to limit our comments to 5 minutes. So everybody has the opportunity. That's number one. Number two, I want to remind everybody that we're here on zoning requests. There were some comments and statements that came up at the last meeting concerning private property transactions. That is not an appropriate topic for discussion at this hearing. This is only for zoning matter, only zoning issues. Okay.
I believe that it is appropriate. It was into the record on the first time we spoke about it. So there may be a couple of comments. Remember, this is our lives.
So I'm just going to reiterate, comments about private property transactions are not relevant. This is a legal proceeding. This is not a a public comment at a city council meeting, for example. This is a legal proceeding where due process requirements are required. And so all items of questioning and consideration must be relevant to the proceeding. Okay, so it's.
It's relevant,
What did I say?
it's relevant to me, sir. And if you lived in my house, it'd be relevant to you too. So please, you're gonna have to give us some leeway here, okay?
Go ahead.
It's okay.
Let me ask you, sir, do you have any questions or statements about the zoning request? Or are your statements limited to the private property transaction?
No, it's not limited to the private property.
Okay, so you may proceed.
Okay. My name is Jason DeBello. I reside at 17W040 Washington Street. I'd like to have a chance to address the petitioner's response from the last meeting on the 22nd. Is there a way to bring up these slides, his slides that he had?
Which one, I'm sorry?
The petitioner's slides that he brought
Which
up?
petition?
The first petition.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is, Lily wants this one? Is there a particular slide?
The very first one, I think you spoke about noise at first, okay? There was noise. I'm curious to see what those actual decibels actually were. And I know that they made reference that we live in an area that's near an airport. But I moved to my area from a direct line of path of the airplanes, much lower on Hillside Drive. And the area that I'm in, we are not in a direct flight path. I moved there directly because of it. We get some airplanes that are much higher that are turning above us, usually only 3 to 4 in the evening, some during the day when no one's at home. So to say that, hey, we already live by an airport, that it's going to be acceptable, it's not acceptable. I believe he spoke about lighting. Okay. There was a reference made about, hey, Chicago has houses right on top of airports. There's a lot of lighting. There's a lot of commercial buildings there. The difference is here they're creating one. Okay? I didn't spend over $500,000 on an addition for my yard to look north where I have darkness. So 1 foot candle more than darkness is still too much. They made reference to the height of the building only dropping to 70 feet from 75 feet. My grade is 15 feet higher than their grade, so I am 15 feet higher. So unless they're gonna put in 85-foot trees, I'm gonna be staring right at that. So I wanna be realistic here, okay? None of us here that are still living in this area are trying to stop this. We're just not trying to be screwed by it. And there's one thing that I'm sure that, I'm sure that you're gonna object to, Mr. Conway, but it needs to be kind of be said here. First of all, good evening, council members, and fellow residents. Does the commission have any questions for me regarding the informational packets of the last meet on 1/22/24 that included topic concerns, distance maps of other residents near Cyrus One facilities, and the letter from Bond, Dickerson, and Conway that I handed to each and every member? Are there any questions for me in regards to that packet that I handed anybody? Okay. I'm here once again to voice my concerns regarding the proposed Cyrus One data center development. There's been no change in my concerns of excessive noise with cooling fans and generators with their thousands of gallons of diesel fuel, the continued possibility of water contamination to wells, and I'm not talking about wells that have been capped properly. I'm talking about construction and what goes into the ground that then becomes our drinking water. That's what I'm referring to. Especially in a building that is allowed to be built at a height that would allow it to tower over my property. These same concerns are also for phase 3. I would like to address the elephant in the room. I believe that the consensus of a lot of people is that the residents still remaining are money hungry and are only complaining to get the most money for their property. Let me address this. There's not one resident left that's asking for more than what Cyrus One has paid for other properties in the subdivision. They set the value, not us. So why would we be accepted to take any less?
I need to stop you there. You're getting into an area, again, that is not appropriate for this legal proceeding.
Okay. All right. This brings me to a question for Wooddale Council. It's you. The letter from your firm that I submitted into the record regards to involuntary annexation. There it states Wooddale could force us residents to sell our property to Wooddale at a fair cash value. What value is this letter referring to? The value that was set upon the purchases of the homes in our subdivision or general home values in our surrounding areas? That's a question for you.
And sir, I'm
Why-
not here to answer your
Okay.
questions. Again, you're getting into areas that are not relevant to the extent you have
It is.
concerns with the company about the purchase of your
It is not
property.
that. This is
You are-
directly with you, sir.
Excuse me. You are free to address.
You're interrupting me first, sir, I understand.
No, I am the meeting facilitator, and what I'm telling you is this is a legal proceeding.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't public comment at a city council meeting. The items of discussion and questioning must be relevant.
This must be heard. This must be heard.
And you
Can't be
are
swept
free,
under the
you're free
carpet.
to address that with the companies, and you're free to
This
address
is
that
about Wooddale,
outside
not
of
the
this
co-
proceeding.
not the company, sir. Please, let me finish. Why would Wooddale force these actions? Why wouldn't
Sir,
Wooddale
again,
force
I'm
these
sorry.
actions
Do
on
you have-
Cyrus
sir,
Ones?
excuse
I
me.
do.
Do you have any other questions about the zoning case?
Yeah, this is part of it. This is part of the zoning, how
That
my
is not
property is
part
still
of
there.
zoning.
It absolutely
Those
is.
are questions about private property transactions.
You know, the slogan of Wooddale prides itself on is working together and making life better. Working for who and better for who? That is a question, okay? And I know you're the facilitator here, but you are treading on a fine line, okay, of not being just a facilitator. The issue is, on the last meeting, there's at least multiple times where you had to remind the council of what they were to listen to and what they were not to listen to, okay?
And you're absolutely correct, that's my job, and I'm doing that
No,
again.
moving the meeting along is one thing, okay? Acting like a puppet master is another. They know exactly what it is, and they can make their own decisions. I don't know
Sir,
why.
do you have any other comments about the zoning case?
I do.
If not, I'm going to have to
I
ask you
do.
to sit down and allow other
I
folks
do.
to speak.
I do.
Okay. Please continue. You are now above 5 minutes, so I'm going to give you
In
30 more
conclusion, I
seconds.
would urge the commission to strongly review its UDO, Unified Development Ordinance, for the residents that do not know the terminology. I believe the commission will clearly find the petitioner has not met several of Wooddale's own provisions within the UDO. I believe if these provisions are to be overlooked or not considered at all, this would be grounds for petition and for protest. I'd like to talk about issues going on right now with theft in the area. Is that outside the scope?
That has nothing to do with the zoning requests at issue.
So I can't speak.
So I'm going to ask you to wrap it up because we're now above 6 minutes.
Okay, okay. There's a lot of theft.
I need to remind everybody, we are here for a specific legal purpose. If you have concerns about theft in the area, I am not minimizing your concern.
Okay.
But you will need to take those to the police department or to the city council. This is a legal zoning proceeding. Okay, and all comments and questions have to be about the petitions that are at issue.
Okay, then I have to reiterate, combating what was said on the light and the noise, everything I said. We don't live right where the airplanes fly exactly. They're not right over us. That's why this property was very lucrative. We are not staring out into a building that has light coming in our houses. We don't have that. There is reference of the businesses that are on the east side of 83, that there's already businesses there. These new ones are being created. Those businesses are one-story buildings, definitely below what we can see. Our grade is 6 feet above that grade, so we can't see those buildings when the bushes are up. So that's something to consider, and I don't believe that they have met their burden of the UDO to have this. So that's all I can say.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public that would wish to make a comment?
Yes. I'm sorry, the UDO?
The UDO, yes.
I don't know if I have access to the internet, I'm sorry. Let me double
Specifically, the
check.
application for the city of Wooddale comprehensive plan.
I'm not sure if let me double check if it'll connect. What is the section, I'm sorry? This is, that's not applicable, this is to change the comprehensive plan. That's not the request.
We're talking about land values here. right?
Yes, but this is not, this is if you needed to make a change to a comprehensive plan. This is to change the comprehensive plan, which is a separate document from the UDO. That's the 2008 report.
Application for planned unit developments, concept plan.
Okay, I need to move this along. Is there anybody else who would like to make?
Is that
And sir,
necessary?
you'll have the opportunity. I just want to make sure we.
Yeah, well, I think that our biggest issue is that we're not talking about.
Please, sir, your name. please.
Sorry, apologize. Rafael Velasco.
Lasco?
Velasco, Velasco.
Thank you.
The reason that we're talking about this is this rezoning, Mr. Conway, directly affects property values, right? Directly affects property. The reason why we're trying to speak about it is because this is going to affect the whole community, and land values are important to us. For most of us, this is our they're our biggest asset, affecting the community and the property values. Probably doesn't matter much to you, Mr. Conway, or honestly, much of the commission, since most of you guys have been pretty quiet. We are here demanding fair treatment. That's it. Fair treatment and to have a voice. That's it. The fact that Mr. Conway is objecting to everything that we are trying to say is honestly disheartening, Mr. Conway, because no other municipality around this area treats the residents like Wooddale does. Mr. Woods has been the only outspoken person, the only outspoken.
She's the only one that reads the package. I just want to say something.
Are you finished, sir?
I would definitely like to speak specific to property values, Mr. Conway, and I wouldn't like to be.
All right, let me make a clarification for you. You are free to discuss how this development you feel will affect your property value. That's okay. All right, that's fair game. What I am saying is discussions about private property transactions or getting your property purchased by a private company, that is not a zoning consideration. If you want to talk about how you feel this development is going to affect the property value of your property, that's fine.
Mr. Conway, last time that we were here, the continuation was, Mr. Wood clearly stated, in hopes that the remaining residents would no longer be part of the subdivision. Absolutely no action has been done to purchase the remaining residents, putting our life in fear. And I would like to address that specifically. May I? I've been living in Mohawk Manor for the last 12 years. This community has been my family's home, a place where we envisioned to live our whole entire life before the development of Mohawk Manor began. I'd like to cut straight to the chase. Since our last meeting, the integrity of the negotiation process for our homes has been shattered. Irv from Transwestern, here today, reached out with an offer for our home, shockingly lower than what my neighbors received.
Sir, again, this is not a proper topic for a zoning hearing.
Not a proper topic.
So do you have
Fair treatment.
Do you have any other comments about the zoning application? Again, if you'd like to talk about how you feel this is going to affect the value of your property, that's okay.
Yes.
So that's fine. You can
Yes.
make statements about that.
Yes.
But you cannot get into discussions about the purchase of your property with another company.
I'm here
That
to.
is not a proper topic for this.
The proper topic should be that we have been treated unfairly from the developer, and everything that has gone through Wooddale has been approved by Wooddale. No questions asked, nothing at all. I would like to state where I currently live. So I live here, and it's not like I was a holdout, not willing to sell to the developer. Actually, I was definitely willing to sell to the developer. The developer reached out to me and told me that the reason why they weren't going to give me fair market value is because my neighbor
Okay, again,
Chris
sir,
to the-
sir, this is not.
This is
a
very
proper
important, Mr.
topic.
Conway. This is very important on
Excuse
property
me,
values.
Excuse me.
I'm addressing the
I have
property
to-
values.
I have to make sure these proceedings are going along according to due process. The applicant has that right. And they have every right, and this board has every right, to make sure that this legal proceeding is proceeding pursuant to relevant discussion.
Mr. Conway,
And again, I'm going to ask you one more time, do you have any comments or statements about the zoning request?
specific to property values?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, go
Yes.
ahead.
Initially, my neighbor to the east, Transwestern, stated that he was a holdout, that he wasn't willing to sell. In the last meeting, Chris openly requested any proof from Transwestern showing that they contacted him.
Okay, so I'm sorry, sir, I have to stop you there. I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up.
Since our
Last
last discussion, Mr. Conway, there has been a noticeable increase in total dissolved solids in our water. I told you guys last time that our well water could change with the uprooting of 60 private well waters that have been in the ground for over 70 years. We're not talking about minor fluctuations, we're talking about 50% increase. How am I aware of this? I keep and maintain tropical fish, which require exceptionally pure water for survival and are among the most challenging to keep. I know this firsthand. I have kept large tropical fish more than a decade, including one that's over 20 years old. I am often asked how I manage to keep exotic fish alive. The answer, though perhaps unsurprising, is water quality. To ensure their survival, I have heavily invested in filtration systems and reverse osmosis systems equipped with digital readouts. This setup allows me to monitor their water's condition before and after treatment to make sure that the systems are working accurately. Unfortunately, the readouts are indicating that the water quality is far from being normal. As a result, my family and I can no longer use our well for drinking, cooking, or even making ice. We have been forced to rely on bottled water for almost all of our needs. I raised this concern at the last meeting, hoping for some action, which I actually mentioned this to Brad as well, but no action has been done, nothing at all. Brad actually just met with us earlier last week. This situation has led me to question who is looking out for us. I also would like to present, if I can, Mr. Conway, present some paperwork for the committee.
Hold on one second. What is this paperwork?
So one of the paperwork is Cyrus One Sustainability Report for 2023.
Okay.
And the second is a public statement from the city of Chandler, a municipality that's been dealing with Cyrus One's noise complaints for over 12 years. So you guys can know exactly what they're saying. Is that okay to present, Mr. Conway?
Do you have a copy that you can provide to the applicant?
I'm pretty sure I provided this to Brad at our meeting.
Okay. And are you familiar with this document that he's attempting to introduce?
I can get a copy of it after you get submitted for the record.
Okay. So you don't have any objection?
I think he can, I imagine he can submit whatever.
If you want to show the members.
This is their own sustainability. There's a copy of that. I highlighted the areas.
Are you 40?
Okay, sir, I'm going to give you one more minute to wrap up, okay?
I promise I'll be brief. Cyrus One's own sustainability report claims a dedication to being a good neighbor, to making positive impacts and avoiding harm. They have asserted that they listen and take action when their operations negatively affect people's lives. Yet here we are, a room full of people, experiencing significant adverse effects on our lives, our health, and, Mr. Conway, our pocketbook. We're not seeing any responsible action being taken. Furthermore, Cyrus One's 2023 sustainability report, as much as they like to state that they're on top of it and noise isn't going to be an issue, has had significant issues in Chandler, Arizona. They have had a 14 years of grievances with them, and now they have banned data centers altogether. Just recently, a new ordinance, 2022. Why is that? The commission should ask, why does a municipality that has had a 14-year history with this specific company ban data centers and specifically states that they understand the adverse effects on neighboring communities? I urge the development committee not to dismiss our concerns. We deserve to live in our homes without fear or safety or questioning the quality of our water and the safety of our children. I request to please deny this, please postpone this until we have further information, until we can at least get the residents out of the homes. I am sure there's going to be plenty of other people that are going to mention the exact same thing, so you guys don't think that it's just something that we're coming up with. The reason why no other municipality has left anybody behind is because it endangers the residents that are continually living there and having to deal with this on a daily basis. Everybody goes home. We go home to empty homes and dangers of our water and the home around us possibly breaking in. I also wanted to mention that I have, just like you mentioned, Mr. Conway, I have spoken with sheriff's departments on the additional activity that has been going through our neighborhood, and the sheriff department has recommended that we arm ourselves because they're not sure they can get there on time. On record, Mr. Conway, and yes, I'm sure we can get a report for you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who would like to make a statement? Yes, sir, go ahead, please approach.
Your name, sir?
Paul Plizga.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Paul Plizga, P-L-I-Z-G-A.
Thank you.
That's for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, St. Brothers.
Oh, there you go. I apologize. Okay. Well,
So I will be touching on the safety regarding rezoning. I live on 17W075 Washington Street. So, okay, my name is Paul Plizga, and I stand before you not just as a resident of Washington Street, but as a son who has witnessed firsthand the devastating impact of fire on a family's life. My father, Andrzej Plizga, and our family suffered immensely from a catastrophic fire in our home in 2010, an event that left us homeless and my father with life-altering injuries. The fire, which required an extensive response from multiple municipalities, highlighted the critical importance of prompt emergency services access, something that Phase 3 of the Mohawk Manor subdivision threatens to compromise. The proposed rezoning and the consequential rerouting of emergency access not only prolong the arrival times of our firefighters, but also put our entire community at a heightened risk. With access limited to a single route from Bryn Mawr to Route 83 and on to Washington, fire trucks traveling northbound on Route 83 would not have access to Washington directly. The potential delay in emergency response could be the difference between life and death. The intersection at Bryn Mawr, already a site of tragedy with the untimely death of Sue Turco, underscores the risks that comes with inadequate planning and foresight. Sue Turco was more than a crossing guard. She was a beloved member of our community whose life was cut short by the dangers of an intersection not far from what could become another hazardous point of entry into our subdivision. Her legacy serves as a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. The noise, the environmental changes, these are significant issues, but today I implore you to consider the immediate and tangible risks to our safety. The rezoning and redevelopment plan for Phase 3, as proposed, disregards the daily lives and safety of my community. It overlooks the potential for another devastating fire, for another deadly accident at the turn onto Route 83 from Bryn Mawr and Washington Street. Vehicle accidents, already a concern, would only be magnified by increased traffic and the construction of a 6-lane highway access point. The memory of Sue Turco, my own crossing guard from Oak Brook Elementary School, and a figure of warmth and safety in my childhood, compels me to speak against the amendment of Phase 3. We must not allow our community to become a place where the safety of its residents is secondary to development and progress. I stand here on behalf of my family, for Sue Turco, and for every resident whose life will be irrevocably changed by the decisions made today regarding Phase 3. I urge the committee to reconsider, to prioritize the safety, well-being, and lives of the people who call this community home. Let's not wait for another tragedy to realize the implications of our decisions. Let's act now with foresight and compassion to ensure that our community remains a safe, accessible, and welcoming place for all its residents. I urge you to please deny all the approvals for rezoning. And I also have a little handout for anyone that's not familiar with Sue Turco on the committee. If I may please hand that out.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name is Debbie Schmaltz. I currently live on Foster Avenue.
Spell your name, please.
SCHMALZ. And I did submit written questions, which were somewhat answered to me, but my concern was for my property value on Foster. I mean, this home is all I have, and I am not at an age where I can make any more money to buy another one and not get what I...
Mr. Conway.
Pardon? Yeah.
Excuse me.
So I wasn't answered that. They said that, you know, that's what the meeting was all about. No one has really addressed this yet tonight. So I am concerned about that. Like I said, and like was stated before, this is the biggest thing I have in my life, the biggest asset, biggest one I'll ever have. So it's a big concern to me. Also, the comments about this company, I hope you guys have all looked into this company because that's a little scary, I gotta say. And you're here to look out for us, I would assume. So that's disturbing to me, and I know they're pushing for that vote, boy, right away, get it in there, but let's address some things for the people first, because all these tax revenue they're throwing in front of your face, that's great. But it's not so great for the little people who just have homes, who have been paying taxes and supporting this community. So I would really implore that you rethink this and take a step back, read some of the things that people have left out for you. I'm concerned about safety as well now, okay? And yeah, I know you leave it to the police, but that's not always gonna work. So I really think you need to step back, take a look at everything that's been presented today, and also I'd like to know about my property value and what I can expect for my rest of my life. So please reconsider before making any decisions. Read more, and thank you for bringing all that up. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who would like to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Your name, please.
Matthew Plizga, Plizga. Before we skip to that, can I just like kind of the new blueprints of the buildings that are going to be built?
The concept.
The concept right here. So I just want to mention one of the main concerns from the past meeting was how close the residents are going to be to the data centers and kind of all of that, like, you know, height and all of that. This is my house right here. So, let's touch screen. So actually, that's way closer than what the previous concern was. So I feel like Wooddale gave the people, the developers and stuff, kind of the one rule of what they want, and they kind of turn around and this is the solution. I feel like that's kind of, you know, I don't want to say anything mean, but, you know, it's a big, you know, to Wooddale. So actually gonna go. So good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Plizga. I currently live at 17W0 Washington Street. A quick short intro about me, my ties with Wooddale. I went to ECEC, Oak Brook, Westview, Wooddale Junior High, Fenton, a lot of presence in the Wooddale Park District, and all my friends are from the Wooddale community. Even though my address is Bensonville, I would say Wooddale is my native town, my hometown. I am very proud of that. On June 1st, 2010, when I was in the 3rd grade, my house burned down. I was only 9 years old, and I will never forget this day. I still remember my dad screaming for help and yelling for us to get out. I remember my dad walking to the ambulance where there was access for it, not being able to put his hands down because of all the burns around him. I remember all the flashing lights as 18 trucks packed our street. I remember all the sounds of the chainsaws cutting openings in my roof as the smoke had to, the firefighters had to prevent ventilation for the smoke. I even remember the smell of the burning buildings just like it was yesterday. This past week, we were notified by the Wooddale Fire Department that they will soon start training on the empty homes. I nearly lost my dad, and you're telling me that I have to relive this event on a regular basis without even having to leave my home as the fire department burns buildings around me? See the same exact road, packed with fire trucks just like on June 1st. Torture my family with the unforgettable memories as the burned buildings stand along the road. How could you possibly do this to a family in your community? Not to mention that they're gonna close down roads as they're doing this training. How are we supposed to go to work? We pay taxes and we won't even have simple access to our road. It just doesn't make sense. Regarding the new plans, there will only be one access to our street. When my house burned down, fire trucks came from both entrances from all over the surrounding towns. Being limited to only one entrance now will slow the response time, but also could prevent them from entering my street. 83 being such a busy road causes many accidents. For example, even yesterday at 6 p.m., Foster and 83, there was an accident when I was leaving my neighborhood. I saw it all. What if the entrance gets blocked by an accident? Suffering trauma from a house fire will give me constant fear of that possibility of happening. The next concern I want to bring up is the safety of our neighborhood. This neighborhood has always been quiet and peaceful, and now is covered in trash, strangers entering, and not a lot of them don't have good intentions. I always see people wandering around people's property, peeking into homes which aren't even empty. About a week ago, I was going into my garage. My garage was open as I was coming back from work. A work van drove by slowly, almost nearly stopped, and was taking pictures of inside, almost as they were planning to come back at night to break in. Not a single crime that I'm aware of in my last 20 years living here in this neighborhood. And now I would say it's even unsafe to raise a family. And now I would like to present the presentation I've made. I've also brought pictures that are going to be presented for, if I could pass them out to the council.
Thank you.
So, few things before I start. There's 16 pictures in here. 8 of them are from when there was the fire training in Bryn Mawr Phase 2, and this is how our neighborhood will most likely look at soon. And then the last 8 is just pictures of our neighborhood and how the kind of the conditions we live in and all that. So as we
Is there a
okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, so first is gonna be the fire training. Here's one of the homes that was left I also want to mention, all these pictures are taken from street view. I didn't go through people's backyards to get these pictures. These are all street view, what we see on a daily basis. So, and these homes were left like this for a few months before anything was done to them. So the first one, we can see home destroyed, burned, everything. Another angle of it. Here, another home. Very similar how my house looked like, actually. So how could you imagine me driving past this every day? Is this a war zone, or is this Wooddale, Bentonville, or whatever? It's not right now, but how can I be driving past this every day? Even though I experienced a fire, my neighbors might have not, but the quality of life goes down so much. We're driving past this every day. Would you guys want to drive past this every day? Just looking over burnt buildings everywhere. Another picture of a burnt house. Few months, I want to include that again. Homes. No garage, no front entrance. It's just perfect area for crime to increase. And then I just want to mention our current neighborhood conditions. For as it was supposed to be mentioned that we were supposed to be taken care of as all of this was going to happen, but clearly this will show. This is actually a few feet away from my house when I get back from my driveway. This is what I see every day as I leave, because there's only one outlet to my street. So I see this every day as I'm going to work. I see this. This is the same picture. More garbage on different home. A little better angle. Oh, more garbage along the roads. Few months that this was laying around, actually. It still is. As you can see, it's also slowly getting on the road, kind of making it unsafe, if you ask me. One of the homes, wide open garage, just begging crime to come in. Broken glass everywhere already. More garbage, but that's my slideshow, because I feel a lot of people don't know what's going on with the pictures, and I feel like this definitely showed everything. And what I want to say is kind of just when voting today, please put your people first. Please vote no to rezoning of Phase 3. Thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Is there any other member of the public who would like to make a statement? Yes, sir. Please take the podium.
Your name, sir?
Eugene Wesley. I live at 471 Itasca Street. I have a couple concerns about this. Obviously, he brought up that the only road that will be allowed to go in and out of there is Bryn Mawr and 83. I believe there ain't a stop and go light over there. So are we putting a stop and go light there for the people who could come out and that? Second is, he's absolutely right. The concerns about the fire safety there, he's got a major concern about there. If there's only one way in to Bryn Mawr, to get in there to fight a fire, that ain't going to fly. Okay? And my other concern, because fire trucks come from all over, and I'll tell you where Wooddale fire trucks get them from. They get them from Bentonville, they get them from Elk Grove, they get them from Itasca, and all those other towns. So going through Itasca, coming all the way through Itasca, that fire truck's going to have to pop up on 83 and come down Bryn Mawr. That's time. Second of all, I'm really concerned about the traffic on Foster Avenue, that this is going to be a major concern. Okay, I live one block over, okay? I see semis, and I don't care, you can sit here and tell me that you're going to have a concern about make sure your construction trucks go the other way. It ain't happening. I guarantee you it will not happen. When you guys tear down those houses, the construction trucks kept coming down Foster Avenue. We have a school down, further down. We have a park district. There's no sidewalks at Foster Avenue. There's kids getting off the bus there. Don't tell me that you are going to make sure those trucks are coming in off 83, because it ain't happening. It ain't happening. So if you're going to promise me that, then you better sit out there with a squad car and you pay for the squad car and write those tickets, because it ain't happening. So that's a safety concern for me. The other thing, the lady brought up a valid point. How much further are you guys coming over? How much more how much land are you coming on the other side of Foster Avenue next? On the Tasker Street in there? Because after I heard last phase that you guys came in, you were stopping right there and not going any further. Now you bought houses on Foster Avenue. Are you coming across the street next? Are you coming across the street next and take more? Is the plan to go all the way down to Irving Park Road with this company? Because I see that plan happening. I really do. I mean, you guys got to be honest with these people. You can't beat around the bush. And if you're telling me that you're only going to have one road in and one way out, you got a problem there. You got major safety concern. So when someone dies up there, God forbid, I hope they sue you guys. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wish to make a statement or a comment?
Your name, please.
Vanessa Velasco. I live in 17W036 Hawthorne Avenue.
Would you spell that? Your
Velasco,
last name?
Velasco.
Oh, okay.
Once again, I stand here once again. I'm not gonna cry this time, but I am very concerned now. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I'm a long-standing member of this Mohawk Manor community. Over the years, like everyone says, it's been a peaceful, safe neighborhood, a sanctuary. Like everybody says, very peaceful. But now with everything going on, everything has shattered. There's no safetiness, there's fears. This last week, I caught a stranger glancing into my house in the cloak of darkness. It's only my husband and my 6-year-old son. I was alone, and with my son, I have nothing to defend myself with. I'm a woman. That's the privacy that we're feeling exposed and defenseless. I don't know about you women out here, but I was crying, and I did call the sheriffs, and they did say the same thing. Maybe you should use protection. Maybe you should get a gun. I grew up in a neighborhood where there was guns. I grew up in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago in Pilsen. I am not gonna advocate to have guns at my house. Yet here I am facing with the unthinkable consideration of allowing a firearm into my home when my son is 5 years old. I'm sorry, I'm just very fraught and it's very fear of everything that's going on. The plea is to help. And we're not here because of financial gain or for our properties. We're just here because we're fearing for my family. I'm fearing for my son. I'm fearing for my family, my husband. You guys are moms. You guys are dads. You guys are grandparents. It's fearful out there for these kids. Maybe you guys don't have children. I have a child. I have child in the way. I do not want my children to be in safetiness. By the way, the bus stop, my son takes the bus in Hawthorne and Foster. I'm not gonna allow my 5-year-old kid to be waiting in Foster when all this construction is going on. I'm not gonna allow him to be waiting alone when some of these people do not even stop on the stop sign when the bus have a stop. I don't know if you guys seen it, but I've seen the bus and people just pass by. They don't care. They don't care if it stopped there on the bus stop. Moreover, I just want you guys to know who stands for us. I said it last month I was here, and I say it again. Who will advocate for our safety, for the well-being of our families that are left in the wake of this development? Our calls for help seem to vanish into the void, unanswered and unacknowledged. We're not mere obstacles of the previous era. We're the living, breathing heart of this community. At least I still am. I'm deserving of consideration, protection, and respect. I implore you to recognize the gravity of our situation and to take immediate action to ensure our safety and to preserve the integrity of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who wish to make a statement or comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Thomas Milewski. My address is 17W061 Washington Street, Bensenville. Since 2019, when Transwestern bought out Washington Avenue next to Central, they bought out 18 properties there. There were 7, including this one, 7 buyouts, they call them assembly, when rich and powerful come and chase us off our land. The one rule that was always employed to protect us in minimal way was that whenever they come and they buy out the neighborhood, they buy out all the houses within there. Itasca had buyout that happened just a month ago, and developers, 5 developers, were trying to buy out that street for 10 years. They couldn't, because there was always somebody opposing. And Itasca protected that neighborhood, telling developers, you either buy everybody or you don't apply for anything. No rezoning, no annexation, nothing. You have to buy out the whole street, the whole neighborhood. Bensonville, in Mohawk Terrace, which is just half a mile north from here, told developers, it was originally ML Properties, and then Prologis joined them. They told them, you have to buy everybody. And the neighborhood consisted of 104 houses. 104 houses. And yet, the developer was able to buy them out within a year. It's possible, it's doable. It's not very convenient for the rich and powerful to negotiate with the peasants. They would rather chase us with fears. What's happening in this neighborhood? This plan, leaving us here in the center, it's a travesty. It's a disgrace. It's a tactic they employ to chase us out. Because the buildings are empty, the trash is out, they come to burn it, they come to practice drills for teams storming the houses with grenades. That was happening in the neighborhood north from us. It scared the hell out of me. It was real grenades. They dropped grenades 100 feet from my house. Bensonville told them they have to buy all the houses, okay? Itasca, Elk Grove Village just closed a couple of months ago, Ropolo neighborhood. They were trying to buy that neighborhood for over 10 years. They couldn't. The rules still stood. You buy all the houses, or you don't apply, or you don't do anything, okay? And they bought all the houses. Now here, for the first time in 8 cases, since 2019, since I've been following all those developments, they come here and they ask you to approve rezoning with the holes in it, because we're still in there. They want industrial neighborhood all around my house. They want 4 data centers, huge data centers, on all 4 sides of my house. And it's the same for all the residents that are left. This is unbelievable. Why do you agree to that? Why do you even consider it? Nobody, Itasca, Elk Grove Village, Bensonville, ever considered proposal like that. And this proposal is recommended for approval? Why? That never happened before. Show me the case when you rezone and do industrial all around 5, 6, 7 houses that are left. This is not rezoning application. This is gun to my head. Get the hell out of your land because we need it. That's what they tell us, okay? I want to address one issue that's crucial to any data center, okay? Any data center, first, if they talk about data centers, they tell you how powerful it is. Megawatts, okay? Every table of data centers that I've seen have one characteristic: power, megawatts. CyrusOne has a data center in Aurora. They call it CHI-2, okay? This is 428,000 square feet building, and it's 50.4 megawatts. Okay, this building was done about 5-6 years ago. Last year, the energy and the power density, other characteristic that it's crucial to any data center and any computer equipment, is kilowatts per rack. Last year, average kilowatts per rack in the industry was 7 to 9 kilowatts per rack. And it's increasing fast and immensely. Mr. Schwartz, the CEO of the applicant, gave an interview in September. I want to include that in the record. He wants 300 kilowatts per rack. And it's not 10 years from now. It's in the future, but it's not 10 years. And they say this construction is going to take 5 to 10 years. Well, by the time they're done, they might be over 300 kilowatts per rack. Well, if you compare this building to building 1 in this application, I measured it, calculated it. This is 2-story building that's going to be 470,000 square feet. So it's going to be bigger than this one. And this one, since it has 5 kilowatts per rack, and our building could possibly have 300 kilowatts per rack, guess how much power this building is going to need? 3,000 megawatts. One building.
Sir,
That's 3,000. Please.
Sir, excuse me. We're past 7 minutes. I'm going to ask you to wrap it
No.
up and make your conclusion.
No, I want those people make them aware to what they deal with, because they have no idea what they're dealing with.
Sir.
3,000 megawatts. That's more than the most powerful nuclear power plant in Illinois. Okay?
Sir, excuse me. I am going to have to ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, I'm wrapping it up.
Gone beyond
They
your
have,
time.
Mr. Peterson, you asked about cooling. That's what they use. 2.25 megawatts generators, okay? They look like small houses. In this thing, they have 28 of them, okay? Well, if the building has 3,000 megawatts, they're gonna need about 1,500 of them. 1,500, okay? And don't think it's unrealistic. Mr. Schwartz states in this interview that the chip makers told them they're going to make even more powerful chips. And it's not going to be 20 years from now. It's going to be within next 10 years. So this is actually just estimate for next maybe 3-5 years. It might be even more. They in a disingenuous way, don't tell you what the power of any of those data centers is going to be. Why? This is the most significant number about any data center. They do it because they don't want to scare us, okay?
Thank you
They
very
don't
much.
want to scare us. If you have those 5 buildings,
Sir, excuse me.
the power requirement for those 5 buildings are gonna be bigger than a quarter of power in the whole state of Illinois.
I need to ask you to sit down, please. We need to let other people in the audience
This
make
is a
their
page about the largest nuclear power plant. It has 2,000, after improvement, 2,386 megawatts, okay? That building in Aurora has 28 of them. I measured on Google how close they are to residential area. The closest house to those generators is 950 feet. 950 feet. They tried to do it 100 feet from my house. How is that fair? How is that possible that anything like that?
Sir, I need to ask you
I don't know why you need that. Why you need that? Those people need to know. They need to know what's gonna happen to them. Because this is a monstrous application, okay? Brett came here and said that this is nothing new and unusual. How many cases did you have a business coming in and having their own private power station the size of Comet's power stations? This is their private power station on their land. How many buildings like that? How many businesses in Wooddale did you have? I can tell you how many. None, ever. Because this is totally unusual. This is totally new.
Okay,
And it's
sir,
totally...
thank you very much. You
This
have been
gentleman
over
come
this.
here
You have
and
been
says
over this.
that it's consistent with Wooddale Comprehensive Plan.
This is a legal proceeding.
Yeah,
I
it's
am
legal
now asking
proceeding
you
about
to sit
about
down.
this area and rezoning of this area, okay? In the plans of Wooddale, there is no possibilities that any houses are left in there. It's all unified. All this area is supposed to be industrial in the plans of Wooddale. But there is no
Thank you.
houses left.
Thank you
How
very
come
much.
we are left in the middle of it?
Thank you very much. Please, we need to let other folks say their piece. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to make a comment?
Mr.
or
Conway,
a
you
statement?
said
We have another
just
member.
minutes ago that it's typical and that's how it's done. Nothing in Wooddale was like this. This is not typical and this is not how it's done. It's
you.
done when you rezone it, when they buy everybody out and remove everybody.
Thank you
It's
very much.
impossible to live in there. And they know it. They know it. They proposed this just to chase us out.
Thank you very much.
And it's totally relevant.
Another member of
And
the
this
public
practice is supported by your office. And you should be recusing yourself because your office issued letters to us, called some residents, and asked them to sell the house, asked them how much the house was worth. How come your office was involved in it?
Thank you very much,
Shouldn't
sir.
you be
Thank you very
recusing
much.
yourself from this procedure? You took your office, your legal office,
Sir.
took sides in it.
Sir, are you looking to make a statement, please?
I'll defer some of my time.
Okay, we've had enough time. Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Please, if you have any conscience, you have to delay or refuse this. This is a travesty and a disgrace. And everybody knows it. But they feel so powerful and rich that they can steamroll anything and anybody. And today they are steamrolling you.
Thank you very much.
Could I give the materials I want to enter?
You can pass it.
Mr. Conway, for the record, since your law firm did issue the letter that threatened the residents, and you have inside information, do you find yourself as...
Sir, may I have your name?
I will give it to you as soon as I ask the question, because I want to move forward. I apologize.
We
My
just
name is
need your
Chris.
name for the record.
My name is Chris Prusnell, P-R-U-C-N-A-L. I own the property,
P-R-U?
C-N-A-L.
Thank you.
I own the property at 17 West 022 Hawthorne Avenue. Just as a follow-up to the previous gentleman's question, since your law office was paid to issue the notice to the residents in support of the Transwestern in this program, and you have additional information that's not available to the residents, do you find yourself legally and ethically bound not to recuse yourself in this matter? And for the record, because this may be a matter for the Bar Association, I'm just asking you as a lawyer.
I'm not here to answer your question.
So you're not, so you are
I'm just acting
denying.
excuse me, I'm just acting as a meeting facilitator, trying to let everybody have their say. I do not vote on any
You
matter.
said this was a legal proceeding. You are a lawyer who is aware of legal requirements, that if you are in a position that you have information the other people do not have, which your law firm definitely has, clearly has, you are morally and ethically obligated by the Illinois Bar Association standards to recuse yourself of any
Do
proceedings.
you have any comments about the zone?
I absolutely do after you answer the question. For the record, I want to know.
I'm not
if-
here to answer your question.
So
if you have a
I'm going to
statement or comment, you can make
assume
it.
that if you continue to stay here, then you find yourself not at any ethical or legal conflict. Is that correct?
I have no concerns about my ethics. None whatsoever. None.
That would,
So,
Mr. Conway has no
I'm
concern
asking
about
you
his
to-
ethics, that's what I've heard. That's okay.
Do you have any statements or comments?
I understand. Okay, I'll start my part.
Let's go with it then. Carry it on. We all are listening to what you
So,
say.
Mr. Conway will be very happy to know that I won't speak about actual property values, because my property over here, as is continuation, as a matter of continuation from last time, I have still not received. I'm sorry? I have not received an offer from the applicant, Transwestern. I have not received any type of written offer or any communications to acquire my property. In fact, I was told by the representative of the applicant, Transwestern, Mr. Irv Gilmer, that my client no longer needs your property. And by looking at this drawing, where they've done this cockeyed Mickey Mouse concept plan where they exclude properties, and they intend to build properties all of it. We all know that this will not be the final plan. This is a plan that's done, much like the previous gentleman said, merely to intimidate the existing property owners to leave. Now, this is done by Transwestern, a company that netted $30 million or thereabouts in their last transaction just from flipping phase 2's properties. And they're calling us greedy. What happens here is that by the council considering this proposal, until the remaining residents are still there, until the other properties are acquired, you are arming and helping out, much like Mr. Conway's office has, helping Transwestern facilitate this program at the expense of Wooddale tax-paying residents. The very simple solution is that you instruct the petitioner to withdraw their application until all properties are acquired, that they're not considered. They said themselves they'll be here for 7 to 10 years working on this. A couple more months, 6 more months until they settle 8 properties to get them acquired isn't far too much to ask. And in the meantime, the residents are here. Assuming that they do stay and they build these properties, and Mr. Maluski's house is surrounded by these 70-foot tall, 1 million square foot warehouses are operating at, by the way, commercial HVAC units operate at 70 to 90 decibels, and that is a constant hum that runs all day long. Far different than Mr. House saying that when we did a study that we went from 51 to 80 at certain peaks. Way different than constant 70 to 90 decibels. Look, if there were no residents here, I would say go have at it. You guys, as a development commission, are free to make whatever decision you have. But the power you have right now is to take the applicant and tell them, we will consider anything that you propose in front of us, one, if and only if, that there are no residents around, and address all future developments for anybody else who's going to be affected by this. Now, as a matter of zoning and questions, right, Wooddale's got a beautifully written UDO. And so one of the tenets of this hearing is, did the applicant fulfill all the questions, and the burden of proof being on them that they have met the concerns. Right? The UDO said, we're going to be mindful of the property values of all, not only Wooddale residents, but anybody within 1.5 miles of any development that they approve. So when Mr. Conway was shutting down all the discussion about property values, that was in direct violation of the UDO. Yes. Let's go furthermore. So there's questions that were written. And what I think is really funny is that a whole list of questions were written, and they were responded by Darcy Fankhauser, who wrote a letter to the commission with responses. And these responses were like, they took the data center and said to the AI chatbot, please do a reply and just say everything in affirmative. Will this project affect property values negatively? No, it will not affect property values. We do not believe so. Will it affect life safety? No, it will not affect life safety. Will it impact the quality of water? No, it will not. The application was the most comical response to questions I had ever heard. So at the end of the day, this commission was challenged with fulfilling the UDO. We've already demonstrated multiple times today that the applicant has come nowhere near close to meeting the burden of proof of answering this. We've heard testimony, well, we checked the sound levels at certain times, but we don't know where it is, we don't have the reports. They are there, but that's what we found. No proof, nothing to offer. There's been talk about trying to acquire the properties or life safety. We have taken life safety into account. I have to check. Yes, we have. There will be no impact to life safety or traffic. We all know that's going to happen. Now, maybe in 7 to 10 years, those chatbots, those AI servers at 300 megawatts will be better, and they'll give us a better response. But as it stands right now, Transwestern, as an applicant, as an agent, that application presented by Ms. Fankhauser nowhere comes near meeting the burden of proof to approve this, nor allow the zoning annexation. Going back to the last person's discussion about emboldening the applicant by threatening annexation and leaving these parcels out here, this kind of reminds me of those old cowboy movies where the greedy landowner went out and hired the thugs, and they came out on horseback with guns and threatened everybody. Except for now we got Mr. Gilmore doing it, saying that, Raphael, hey, we don't need your property because this guy here is never selling. It's worthless. The funny thing is, when he talked to me a couple weeks ago, which was great, and I finally talked to somebody once, he said, I don't have a wire for your property because the guy next to you, he's never selling. And the exact same story. As I started meeting some of my other neighbors, same story. What I'm asking for you guys to do is don't let them steal the property. Especially a company that just made a $30 million profit. When I asked Irv about that, he said, that's what we do. You can't blame us. That was his response. That's what we do. We make money. They're going to do that. Cyrus One, great company. They're going to do great things for the future. I have no doubt about it. I think Wooddale will be a better community when they do this at some point. But I implore you that if you consider this, you need to do it in an orderly fashion that's consistent with the UDO. And what we've heard today, folks, ladies and gentlemen, the testimony, none of the tenants of the UDO have even come close to being fulfilled. That application could have been filled out by an Atari 6400 or whatever. That was not even done, wasn't even done well. There was not one statement that had facts or data. It was just a restatement of words. It was a word salad that put everything in an affirmative thing. There should be what we should see is a preponderance of evidence supporting this, supports all the tenets of what UDO, Wooddale's UDO. What we got was a money-making scheme that will enrich Transwestern and eventually Cyrus One, but they're investing a lot into this. What we ask you as residents and everybody else is, at whatever point you're ready to approve this, do so in a way that doesn't affect the life safety of any residential property owners in the middle of this development, or as UDO says, within 1.5 miles. That is what you're allowed to do. You're going to make a recommendation to the city council in a few moments. That recommendation is going to carry weight. It's going to sit there, so every time you drive by this area, you're going to think about the poor people whose houses are surrounded by 4 big buildings. And don't worry, 7 to 10 years, it doesn't take 7 to 10 years to build 3 buildings. You know, just like in Chandler, Arizona, they have 10 buildings ready. They started with 1, they have 10. That is where they're probably going to go. But I don't know that because none of that's been shared. One last thing, and I apologize that it's taking so long. I've gone over time, Mr. Conway.
Go ahead.
But earlier, Gosha Uchiha said that there was no staff comments, there was no emails. That was partially true. There was partially incorrect, sorry, because there were emails that were sent by different members that were not entered into record. Also, additionally, last time we were here, she said that we're going to be an open book. If there's we're going to be in full transparency. We know that there was 5 different FOIA requests made. Anyone want to guess how many FOIA requests were answered? 0. They were all denied. We have absolutely no transparency. Now, Mr. Conway, the Office of Bond, Conway, and Dixon, or Dixon and Conway, they have all the transparency of knowing what this project is. And I understand his reasoning for wanting to push this along. and shut everybody up, because he knows his law firm is being compensated by this. We don't know. When we asked through a federally approved program, we were all denied. On not one question, not a single question, on every single question. We are operating completely in the dark. You folks are our only lifeline to support. The power that you have right now is to make this right and tell Transwestern, who's acting as an agent for Cyrus One, that if you want approval and consideration by the City Council and the recommendation of the Planning Commission, the Development Commission, I apologize, you do so after there are 0 residents in this development. Because the next thing that will happen is that they're going to want a special use permit and a subdivision and everything else. And right now, they intend to do so with these properties here.
Mr. Personnel, we're at 9 minutes now. Can you please make your concluding statements?
I'm not gonna talk, so I can give you extra time. So I think it would be fair.
And I was going to lose some time for other people, but I'll wrap this up. Where it comes down to it at the very end is nobody in this room believes that this is the final thing. This is actually even greater than the concept plan. In civil engineering, folks, everybody knows the concept plan is like written like an etch-a-sketch. That's really what this is. A real plan would have civil engineering features, functions about height, width, everything else, all the things that are needed to proceed ethically as a council. All the facts that are required to prove beyond any doubt that this is going to match up with the UDO, not there. So, with that, folks, I will leave you. I thank you very much for your time. And I ask you one more time that there is no reason to rush the judgment. We have time to do things the right way. It's been done before in Itasca, in Elk Grove, and numerous Spencerville and other cities. I want you to know that Wooddale residents shouldn't be treated any worse than our surrounding community. This power is completely in your hands. A vote for yes today would signal to the rest of the residents of Wooddale that you care about them less than the other cities do about their residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Is there any other member of the public who would like the opportunity to speak? Okay. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll allow the applicants, if they want, not required to, if you want to make any additional comments or statements or address anything that was brought up at the hearings, I'll allow you that opportunity. Does any of the applicants desire any more further opportunity to speak?
I'll make a quick comment.
Okay.
So, yep. No, I'll just mention a lot of the concerns I heard today are similar to what we heard, or I had heard the first time around, and I worked obviously to address those with our presentation. And then, in addition to this, I've had numerous discussions with people over the past few weeks, as I mentioned in my discussion before. And I think I won't name any names out of respect for everybody that I have met with, but I would say that they've been honest, truthful, and hopefully perceive just positive exchanges. And I'll just I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Does the members of the CDC, do you have any follow-up questions? Yeah, Mr. Wood.
My question is to you. You guys do own this property now, right?
Correct.
And I've driven through it myself.
Right, let's do that. Hold on 1 second. Can you please take the podium? Just because we're recording, I want to make sure everything's on audio.
Why haven't you cleaned it up?
Yeah,
I mean, I drove through there, and like he said, it looks like a war zone.
Yeah, no, I think.
If I were trying to get something pushed through, I think I'd be bending a little for the people. I'll get it cleaned up the minute it gets out there, not wait a month to clean it up.
Yeah, I think we've got obviously private property owners moving from their houses and leaving things behind.
And I understand that, but a month?
Yeah, again, I'm not managing the
Year and a
day-to-day
half
thing,
on the
but
property north from us, and they never been there once.
Thank you.
For a year and a half. It's growing prairie over there. There is nothing.
Excuse me, sir. We're doing this orderly. It's one person at a time. Do you have any further comments or statements?
Well, I'd like to say, do you send anybody through there on a daily basis, weekly basis, anything?
Yeah, there's people there on a daily or weekly basis there.
So they're just ignoring the garbage?
I'm gonna speak then now.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, sir.
Yeah, I think there probably might be a better source to talk about the day-to-day procedures and process of it. So.
Okay, so, again, just a point of procedure. I know there are concerns about the conditions out on the property in terms of, you know, things that are being left behind, safety concerns. I do not want to minimize anybody's concerns that way. That said, we're here for a very specific purpose, and that is to consider this applicant's and the other applicant's zoning request. To the extent that you do have legitimate concerns, I don't want to minimize those, about safety issues, refuse, weeds, anything of that nature. I absolutely encourage you to contact the city's enforcement department. That's what they're there for, the law enforcement department and the code enforcement department.
But,
Okay,
you know,
so
but that area doesn't belong to Wooddale, so how can they enforce the code?
then
Telling residents to
you
do nothing.
so all I'm saying is you want to contact the jurisdiction that has the enforcement authority. I do not want to minimize your concerns that way, okay? The only point I'm making is that this hearing specifically is for a zoning request, okay? Do you have any other comments about your zoning request? No. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other members of the CDC have any questions or statements they'd like to make? Okay.
I'd like to have a question for him.
For the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
Do you secure the area with? Do you secure the area? I mean, as far as looking at these houses, I mean, if they're knocked down, shouldn't somebody be there patrolling that at night or making sure nobody's doing anything?
Yeah, we've heard a concern from the residents about that, and there have efforts in place to put fencing up around the properties that we have secured. It's a temporary condition, obviously. Once they're knocked down, that goes away because there won't be houses to go through. It'll be an empty field similar to what you have to the north. So again, temporary. I think we're anxious to get the houses that are owned down because it's a concern for us too. Is having vacant properties there. It makes sense to have them demolished as soon as we can.
It would help.
Certainly, certainly.
All right, any other questions from the CDC? Yes.
I'd like to make a couple comments. We talked about the surrounding cities or villages having a program where they had to buy out all the houses before they could change the zoning laws. I think that would be a terrific thing for us to adopt.
Yes. It would certainly mitigate a lot of problems. The other thing, I know they said the fire department comes in and burns some of these houses down for practice. I don't know how many practice houses you have to burn down. You don't have to burn them all down. Maybe you keep 3 or 4 or something like that and destroy the rest of them. Take them down, haul them away, clean up the place. This is ridiculous. This is almost a threatening device to the rest of the owners of these houses. I know it's very hard to stop progress, and I know it'd be beneficial, probably money-wise for the city, but I think it's like I said, if you change the direction of this where everybody, where they have to comply with changing the zoning by selling all the houses or settling. And I know I wouldn't want to live next door to this. I mean, I moved out here to Wooddale because I have an estate lot and I enjoy it. It's quiet as it can be. When I bought it, all the air traffic was on the south side or the north side of Irving Park, and now I got them flying over my backyard. And it's ridiculous. I mean, you gotta compensate these people, and if that's what you wanna do, God bless you, but I think we ought to change our rules here and adopt the same ordinances that the Pennsylvania has got. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Are there any other statements or comments?
Oh, no.
You have another question?
Yeah, but we're doing the motion.
Okay. Absolutely.
OSHA, since when do we rezone property that surrounds property that is not owned? It's like me trying to take my neighbor's yard, just his yard, let him keep his house, put it to my property. You wouldn't let me do it.
And it never happened before.
So
So why are we letting this happen?
There's a difference rezoning just a single property, what's called spot zoning, to the entire district. So it is
Circle
true.
a few houses?
Those are unincorporated properties, yes.
That's absurd.
So we don't have a say in their zoning.
Any other questions from the CDC member? Okay. All right. Having all the questions, there's been quite a bit of testimony for the CDC to consider here tonight. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to proceed to the deliberations portion of our hearings. What we do is we close the public hearing, and then we move to the deliberations. And at that point, that's the opportunity for the members to express their views, comments, and things of that nature. Okay, so having no additional testimony, we need a motion to close the public hearings for case number CDC 2023-003 and case number CDC 2023-008.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's motion and second. Can we have a roll call to close the public hearings?
Okay.
No, this is just to close the public hearings. We'll do the vote after that.
Ms. Woodley?
Yes.
Ms. Danko? Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
This is just to close the public hearing. We're going to proceed to vote after that.
Say something else.
Well, we're gonna proceed to the deliberations. We'll be able to make more comments about this.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mr. Parenti?
Second.
Yes. Okay. Yes, and then Mr. Peterson, just to close the public. No. Okay. So he voted yes to close the public hearing. What's your vote to close the public hearing? We will have opportunity to comment after that.
I'd like to not go first.
So everybody has voted, and so what's your vote on closing the public hearing?
Closing?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Oh.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Yes,
Yes.
carries.
Close.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we are now in the deliberations portion of the meeting for both requests. We're going to vote separately on both requests, but now is your opportunity to make comments, statements. Now is your opportunity to make comments, statements as to either matter. Any further comments? You had a comment, Mr. Peterson?
We brought up life safety questions, and I really heard no answers. So I don't know if he has any answers to them, or what we're going to do about fire trucks. And some of these questions ought to be answered before we even vote on them, I think.
Yes, that's for sure.
Any other comments or statements about either case?
I'm all for moving forward, advancing things, but when we buy a property, this is the thing that really drives me nuts, that we couldn't even bother to keep clean for the people. You're just shoving it down their throat, and you want me to sit here and, with good conscience, vote for that. I'm sorry, it just doesn't fly well with me.
Any other comments, statements?
So just so people know, we might not sit here and say something, but we do get this huge packet to read, and it's our responsibility to read it and ask questions before the meeting. So we might have our questions answered by someone else, or we might have the answers by reading what we're supposed to read. And I would like to say that I agree with the statement of purchasing all the properties and moving forward. So that is all.
Agreed. Okay. And just as a procedural point, I want to reiterate, I've said this prior, we're here for a particular zoning request. There is nothing in our code. I noticed we had some speakers talk about other towns. I can't verify what their codes provide. Our code does not. Excuse me. Our code does not provide any requirement that there be, private property purchases to get zoning. So that is not a proper consideration for the CDC to consider.
There are videos on YouTube. You can see how Itasca.
Excuse me, sir. You've had your opportunity. This is an opportunity for the CDC to speak. I'm simply advising the CDC on what the city code provides.
I actually have one more thing to say. So, just so you know, we're here to listen to what you have to say, and we vote, but our vote is not what's gonna happen. It's the alderman or the committee, what is it again? Alderman. The council, city council, they make the final decision. So we could all sit here and say yes or no, and then they could come all back and say yes. So, I mean, it's not like we're not thinking of the people, because that's our job to listen to what you have to say. But you need to go to those meetings and have your voice heard, because it's great to hear them here, but we're not the deciding factor, they are.
But they will explain.
All I'm saying is you should go there.
You provide them political alibi. That's your function.
What was the last?
You make a recommendation, and they will say, we acted on recommendation of the Development Commission. That's how it works. Don't wash your hands off.
I'm not washing my hands. Don't assume anything about me. Don't.
Okay.
I'm here to listen. I'm here to read. I'm here to do my job as a volunteer. I volunteer my time here. Respect that.
Does anybody else have a statement or comment they'd like to make before we proceed to voting on both matters? Okay. So we're going to take them one at a time. We're going to do the first case. The first case is the case, obviously, that was continued to tonight. And then we'll do the second case. All right, so I'm going to propose a motion. Somebody can say so moved. There's a second. Okay, just because you do that process doesn't mean you're in favor of it or you're against it. It all comes down to the vote after the motion is on the floor. Okay?
Can I ask a question? If there is no motion, the matter would not be sent to the city council, is that correct?
There is a motion. The applicant has a right to a motion.
Correct.
As a matter of due process.
Then it doesn't get voted on, correct? I'm just asking from a point of order.
This board has to take action and make a recommendation.
But if nobody makes a motion or
Excuse me, sir. At this point,
at
this point, we're here at the CDC deliberation piece. Okay. So I'm going to make the motion. I'm going to say so moved. There'll be a second. But then we're going to vote. You're free to vote against recommendation. You're free to vote for recommendation. Okay, so here is the motion. Based on the submitted petition and the testimony presented, the proposed request for the special use for planned unit development, combined concept in the entire site and final development plan for phase 1 with certain deviations. special use for major utilities and public service facilities, site plan review, and final plat of subdivision, re-subdivision on property generally located at the west of Illinois Route 83 Bussey Road between Bryn Mawr Avenue on the north and Washington Street to the south is consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. Therefore, I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated February 26, 2024 as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of the special use for planned unit development, combined concept for the entire site, and final development plan for Phase 1, with certain deviations, special use for major utilities and public service facilities, site plan review and final plat of subdivision, re-subdivision on property generally located to the west of Illinois Route 83 Bussey Road between Bryn Mawr Avenue on the north and Washington Street to the south in case number CDC 2023-003, subject to the following conditions. The special use, planned unit development, variation, site plan review, and plat of subdivision shall substantially conform to the staff memo dated February 26, 2024, and the attached exhibits, except as such plans may be modified to meet city code requirements. Where deviations to the codes have not been requested as part of this approval, the existing codes must be met as applicable at the time of permit application. Condition 2, the special use permit shall be deemed to relate to and be for the benefit of the lot itself. Condition 3, final engineering approval prior to building permit issuance. Condition 4, if the rooftop units are visible from the streets, the developer will be required to provide screening. Condition 5, the developer has the ongoing obligation to maintain the landscaping on the site in accordance with the approved landscape plan. Okay, that is the motion. Anyone can say so moved.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, so before we take the roll, a yes vote means that you are in favor of recommending this request to City Council. A no vote means that you are in favor of not recommending this to City Council. Okay? So Marilyn, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Rudnicki?
No.
Ms. Zabo?
No.
Mr. Parenti?
No.
Mr. Woods?
No.
Mr. Peterson?
No.
Okay, so this request in case number CDC 2023-003 will go up to the City Council as a recommended denial. Okay, and so it will next go to the Planning Zoning Committee, and from there it will go to City Council for further consideration. Okay, let's now move on to the next case. The next case is CDC 2023-008. All right, and we're going to do a motion for that case. This is the second request. Based on the submitted petition and testimony presented, the proposed request for a map amendment rezoning upon annexation via annexation agreement and preliminary subdivision plat, including vacation of streets to enable redevelopment of the area generally located along Illinois Route 83, Bussey Road, between Washington Street to the north and Foster Avenue to the south, is consistent with the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. And therefore, I move that the Community Development Commission adopt the findings of fact included within the staff memo dated February 26, 2024, as the findings of the Community Development Commission, and recommend to the City Council approval of a map amendment rezoning from R1 to I1 upon annexation via annexation agreement and preliminary subdivision plat, including vacation of streets to enable redevelopment, to enable redevelopment of the area generally located along Illinois Route 83, Bussey Road, between Washington Street to the north and Foster Avenue to the south, also known as the Bryn Mawr Phase 3 project in case number CDC 2023-008. Anybody can say so moved.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, again, if you vote yes, you're in favor of recommending approval to the city council. If you vote no, you're in favor of recommending denial to the city council. Okay, Marilyn, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Rudnicki?
No.
Ms. Zabel? No. Mr. Parenti?
No.
Mr. Peterson?
No.
Mr. Woods?
No.
Okay, so the matter is going to go up to the PZB committee and city council as a recommended denial of this particular case. Okay, so that concludes tonight's matters, both hearing matters. Again, this will go to PZB committee, and CDC is done with the 2 cases at this point.
We haven't adjourned? Did we adjourn?
We need to adjourn.
We still have more of our meeting, so but thank you very much.
The meeting's not over, sir.
We have more of our meeting. Okay. Is there a staff liaison report?
There is no report other than we are expecting to have a March meeting. The date will be March 18th.
All right, anything else? Any other business that we need to address tonight? Okay, there being no other business, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting stands adjourned.